My neighbor, mysteriously disappeared, and I think I know what happened. I never really paid much attention to Mr. Calloway, my next-door neighbor. He was one of those quiet, reclusive types who barely acknowledged you with a nod if you passed him on the street. He lived alone in that creaky old Victorian house, the one with the sagging porch and ivy-covered windows. But then, one day, he was gone. It wasn't the kind of disappearance where someone packs a bag and leaves a note. No moving trucks, no goodbyes. One day he was there, and the next, his house sat eerily vacant, like a hollow shell of its former self. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe he went on a trip. Maybe he moved in the dead of night. But then I started noticing the weird things. His mail piled up. The newspapers on his doorstep turned soggy with rain. And then there were the lights, flickering on and off at odd hours. I knew for a fact he had no family in town, no close friends. So who was inside his house? Curiosity got the better of me one evening when I saw a shadow move across his upstairs window. The hair on my arms stood on end. I was sure no one had gone in or out for days, yet something was there, watching. Determined to get answers, I grabbed a flashlight and walked over. The wooden steps groaned beneath my weight as I hesitated at his front door. It was unlocked. I pushed it open and the smell hit me first. Musty, like damp earth and something metallic. The air was thick, heavy, and wrong. That's when I heard it. A whisper. Low, raspy, coming from somewhere deep inside the house. "Help me." I froze. The whisper had been faint, almost like the wind pushing through the old house. But I knew what I heard. "Help me." The air inside felt thick, clinging to my skin like a damp fog. My heart pounded as I stepped deeper into the house, my flashlight beam sweeping across dust-covered furniture and peeling wallpaper. Everything was exactly as Mr. Calloway had left it. His reading glasses still on the side table, a half-empty cup of coffee long dried up. But there was no sign of him. I hesitated at the base of the staircase. The whisper had come from above. A soft creak echoed through the house, making my pulse spike. I swallowed hard and started climbing, each step groaning beneath my weight. When I reached the top, I noticed something strange. The door to the attic was slightly ajar. A single sliver of darkness peeked through the gap. The whisper came again. This time, more urgent. "Please, help me." I pushed the attic door open. The stench hit me like a wall. Mold, rotting wood, and something else. Something foul. My flashlight flickered as I stepped inside, illuminating a room filled with old furniture, crates, and dust-covered trunks. And then I saw it. A figure, hunched, skeletal, barely more than a shadow, crouched in the corner. It wasn't Mr. Calloway. Its eyes glowed, reflecting the beam of my flashlight like an animal caught in the dark. It was thin, impossibly thin, with elongated fingers gripping the wooden floorboards. I gasped, stumbling back. My foot knocked against something. A small trunk, its lid cracked open. My breath caught in my throat when I saw what was inside. Photographs, old ones, faded and curling at the edges. They were all of Mr. Calloway. Some showed him as a young man, others more recent. But in every single one, something was lurking in the background. The same thing crouching in the corner right now. And then it moved. The thing in the corner twitched. Its glowing eyes locked onto mine, and for a split second, I couldn't breathe. The air in the attic felt colder, like something was draining the warmth from the room. My flashlight flickered again, and in that brief moment of darkness, I heard it move. A scuttling sound, like nails dragging against wood. I stumbled backward, my heel catching on the old floorboards. The trunk of photographs tipped over, spilling its contents across the ground. A chill ran up my spine as I saw more images. Some showed Mr. Calloway standing in front of his house. Others captured him sitting in his living room, reading a book. But in the latest ones, he looked terrified. In one photo, he was staring directly at the camera, eyes wide with fear. Behind him, that same thing lurked in the shadows, its elongated fingers reaching toward him. Then I saw the last picture. It was taken in this attic. Mr. Calloway was sitting exactly where the creature now crouched. His expression was hollow, lifeless. A realization slammed into me like a freight train. This thing didn't just haunt him. It took him. The whisper came again, but this time it wasn't from the creature. It was all around me. The walls, the air, the house itself seemed to whisper. Help me. I turned to run, but the attic door slammed shut behind me. The creature moved, slow and deliberate, rising to its full height. Its limbs stretched unnaturally, its bones creaking as it straightened. My flashlight flickered once more, and for the briefest moment, I saw its face. Or rather, what used to be a face. Its skin was stretched too tight over its skull, its mouth twisted into something that wasn't quite a grin, wasn't quite a snarl. And in its empty, hollow eyes, I saw something worse than hunger. I saw recognition. It knew me. It had been waiting. And then, it lunged. I barely had time to react. The thing lunged, its elongated fingers reaching for me. I dove to the side, crashing into an old wooden crate. My flashlight hit the floor and rolled away, its beam now flickering wildly across the attic ceiling. A deep, guttural sound filled the room. Not quite a growl, not quite a breath. The air felt thick, pressing against my skin like an invisible weight. I scrambled to my feet, my heart hammering. The thing was still there, shifting in the darkness. It didn't charge again. Instead, it just watched. Its head tilted as if studying me. Then, it whispered. Not him. A cold wave of dread washed over me. Not him? Did it mean Mr. Calloway? Or did it mean me? I needed to get out. Now I bolted for the attic door and yanked on the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The thing moved behind me, its nails scraping against the wood. I turned just in time to see it step closer, its hollow eyes locked onto mine. Then I saw the camera. It was an old Polaroid, sitting on top of one of the overturned crates. My mind raced back to the photos. The ones of Mr. Calloway, always with the creature lurking behind him. An idea struck me. I grabbed the camera and pointed it directly at the thing. My hands trembled as I hit the shutter. A blinding flash filled the room. The creature let out a horrible, distorted screech, recoiling as if the light had burned it. I didn't wait to see what happened next. The attic door burst open. I stumbled out, tripping down the stairs as I fled. The house groaned around me, the whispers turning into a wailing cacophony. I hit the front door full force, tumbling onto the porch. The second I crossed the threshold, everything went silent. The air felt normal again. No more whispers, no more darkness pressing in. I turned back, expecting the creature to be right behind me. But the house was empty. Still, I wasn't taking any chances. I ran back to my own home, slamming the door shut and locking it. My breath came in ragged gasps as I collapsed against the wall, the Polaroid camera still clutched in my hand. And then, the photo developed. My stomach turned to ice. It was a picture of the attic, the same old crates, the same dusty furniture. But no creature. Instead, Mr. Calloway was there, sitting in the same corner where the thing had been, his face pale, his eyes pleading, his mouth forming silent words. Help me. I stared at the Polaroid, my breath caught in my throat. Mr. Calloway was in the attic, but I had been up there. He wasn't there. Only that thing was. Unless a sickening realization settled in my gut. That thing was Mr. Calloway, or at least it had taken something from him. His body? His soul? I didn't know. But his desperate, hollow-eyed face in the photo told me one thing. He was trapped, and he needed my help. My body screamed at me to do the opposite, to leave town, to forget this ever happened. But something deep inside whispered a different truth. If I ran, it wouldn't stop. That thing knew me now. It had recognized me. I had to end this. Gripping the Polaroid in one hand and the camera in the other, I forced myself to walk back outside. The night air was still, the house looming before me like a silent, waiting beast. I stepped onto the porch. The moment my foot touched the wood, the front door creaked open on its own. It was expecting me. I swallowed hard and entered. The house was different this time. The air was colder, the darkness thicker, as if it had become aware. The moment I stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind me. The whispers returned, but this time they were clearer. Don't. Leave. Go back. But underneath them all, one voice cut through. Weak, distant, but unmistakable. Help. Me. Mr. Calloway. I gripped the camera tighter and made my way upstairs. Each step felt heavier, as if the house itself was trying to pull me back. The attic door stood open, a void of blackness waiting beyond. I stepped inside. The smell was worse this time, thick and metallic, like old blood and decay. The shadows in the attic seemed alive, shifting just beyond my vision. But in the center of it all, the thing was waiting. Only now it looked different. It was changing. Its limbs twisted, its skin stretching and reforming as if struggling to hold its shape. Its hollow eyes fixed on me. It was afraid. I raised the Polaroid. I know what you are. The thing let out a guttural hiss, its body jerking unnaturally. The whispers in the air turned to angry, overlapping voices. The house shook around me. I lifted the camera. The creature's mouth opened. Too wide, too wrong. Its entire body convulsing as I clicked the shutter. Another blinding flash. A scream that wasn't just sound, but something deeper. Something that rattled inside my bones. And then, silence. The darkness in the attic seemed to pull inward, sucking itself away into nothingness. And where the creature had stood, Mr. Calloway lay on the floor, motionless. I rushed to him, shaking him. Mr. Calloway? Can you hear me? His eyes fluttered open, and the first thing he said chilled me to my core. It's still here. Mr. Calloway's voice was barely more than a whisper. His eyes, wide and hollow, darted around the attic as if searching for something in the shadows. It's still here. I swallowed hard, glancing around the attic. The air felt lighter than before, but something wasn't right. The thing was gone. Wasn't it? I helped Mr. Calloway sit up. He was weak, his skin pale and clammy. We have to get out of here, I said. Can you walk? He nodded shakily. I think so. I looped his arm over my shoulder and helped him to his feet. Every instinct screamed at me to move quickly, but something gnawed at the back of my mind. If the creature was really gone, why did the house still feel wrong? We made it down the stairs, each step creaking under our weight. The moment our feet hit the first floor, a deep, low groan rumbled through the house. The air grew thick again. Mr. Calloway's grip tightened on my arm. His breath hitched. It knows. I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't want to know. We pushed forward, heading straight for the front door. I reached for the handle. And the house lurched. The walls groaned, the floor buckled, and an unnatural cold rushed through the room like a winter storm. The front door slammed shut on its own. A sharp, rasping voice filled the air, reverberating through the walls. You took him. The shadows near the staircase stretched, twisting and convulsing. From them, something began to rise. Not the creature from before. Something worse. The shape was taller, its limbs longer, jagged, like twisted branches. Its face, if it could even be called that, was an endless void of writhing darkness, mouths appearing and vanishing in the black. It pulsed, shifting, as if it wasn't fully in this world. Mr. Calloway gasped, clutching my arm. It's the house, he rasped. It's always been the house. My blood turned to ice. It wasn't just the creature. The entire house was alive. It had fed on him, trapped him, and now it wanted me too. I did the only thing I could think of. I raised the camera and snapped a picture. The flash burst through the room, bright as lightning. The creature recoiled, screeching in a voice that wasn't just sound, but pure, raw hatred. The walls trembled, the windows cracked. "Go!" I yelled, shoving Mr. Calloway toward the door. The moment he touched the handle, the house fought back. The floor splintered beneath us. The walls collapsed inward, like the house was trying to swallow us whole. I snapped another picture. Another burst of light. The creature convulsed, its body twisting as if being ripped apart. Mr. Calloway wrenched the door open. We ran. The second we crossed the threshold, a deafening boom shook the earth. I turned back just in time to see the house implode, its walls folding inward like collapsing lungs, the roof crumbling, the very foundation sinking into the ground. And then, nothing. The house was gone. Just an empty, barren lot, like it had never been there at all. We stood there gasping for breath, our clothes covered in dust. Mr. Calloway turned to me, his eyes still filled with terror. "You saved me," he whispered. I looked at the camera in my hands. The last photo was developing. My heart nearly stopped when I saw it. The house was still there. And in one of the windows, something was watching. I stared at the Polaroid in my trembling hands. The house that was gone, was still there in the picture. Its windows were dark, lifeless, except for one. In the upper right-hand window, something was watching. A shape, a silhouette. It wasn't the creature, it wasn't Mr. Calloway. It was me. I went cold. What is it?" Mr. Calloway asked, his voice weak. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The picture showed me standing in the window of the house staring out at myself, my expression blank, my eyes dark, like I was still inside. I swallowed hard and stuffed the Polaroid into my pocket. "It's nothing," I lied. "Just a blur." Mr. Calloway exhaled, nodding. "Good, good. It's over then." I forced a smile. "Yeah, it's over." But as we walked away from the empty lot, I couldn't shake the feeling. Like something was still with me. Like I had left a piece of myself inside that house. Or worse, like I had never really left at all.